Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ad Age's Publishers Fireside, where we provide perspective and thought leadership on a critical topic facing the industry as a whole. I'm John Dioso, the editor of Ad Age Studio 30, and today we're going to discuss the best strategies for marketers to navigate the deep cookieless sea. January 2022 has loomed as the date of the customer data apocalypse ever since Google's January 2020 announcement that it was removing third-party cookies from its Chrome browser. With less than a year to go until C-Day and a new privacy initiative announced practically every week, the urgency to create new pathways forward is only matched by the confusion over how to get there. But luckily for us, Resonate Chief Technology Officer Tom Craig is here to discuss the best strategies for anxious marketers to navigate these uncharted waters as we head into the post-cookie future. Before I jump in, please let us know where you're watching from. All right, let's get started. Hey, Tom.
How you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm great. Great, thanks.
So excited to be talking to you today. So thank you so much for doing this. Now, for
Absolutely.
those, just for a quick primer, for those viewers who aren't as familiar with Resonate, just tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. Resonate's a marketing technology platform. We're a pioneer in AI-driven consumer data and intelligence. We have our Resonate Ignite platform helps brands and agencies, learn, get deep insights about the consumers and prospects, and integrates with all of the ad tech and martech ecosystem. Our Resonate elements are our proprietary data set where we have 13,000 pieces of information about all online consumers. And we use that to help, again, these brands and agencies develop strategies, do research, develop personas, and ultimately start a conversation with consumers.
Great. Could you tell the audience a little bit about Resonate's National Consumer Study, which you guys describe as the largest study of the U.S. consumer? What sets it apart from other studies? And more specifically for today's conversation, how do the findings from that study help marketers prepare for the cookies future?
So our National Consumer Study is a study we run where we talk to over 100,000 consumers every year, asking them long-form questions, and develop this deep understanding of their values, motivations, why they buy, what they buy, preferences, media habits, etc. And our differentiators are certainly the size. So it is a multiple of the next closest industry survey. The scale, so we are collecting 13,000 bits of information. But probably our biggest competitive advantage is the freshness of this data. We are constantly in field. We are updating the data and our core data 6 times a year through various waves. And so our customers get to see the freshest data. And about a year ago, when everything went sideways in the world, we actually started running survey waves once a month. Every 3 to 4 weeks, we would talk to about 5,000 consumers and really learn what's changing in the ecosystem. So our biggest differentiator really is the freshness and deep understanding of every consumer.
And how much of an anomaly was last year? I mean, you talk about the different waves, and you started going into, what'd you say, every 4 weeks, was it that you did a new wave? First of all, the wave is the actual study going out in the field. Is that
Sure.
That's what the terminology means? How much did it change from the beginning of the pandemic till basically where we are now?
Well, so again, we made a quick decision that we had the assets available to help marketers and brands through this time, and so we actually asked questions, solicited questions from our clients, and we've learned, in the early days when we were all dealing with it, we were asking questions like, how frequently are you washing your hands? But ultimately, we learned that they really want to know who's going, when are we going to get back to normal? How are we going to get back to normal? What are the buying behaviors and those types of things? And so last summer, we developed a segmentation scheme that we put out for, reopen rushers and, reopen resistant consumers. So really telling some of our clients what's in the minds of their consumers. And so we have, a number of examples, right? We moved from, in a year where we had pandemic, a lot of consumer activism, and there was a lot of social justice questions that we started to feather in, and then also in an election year. So what we found is, is this our new normal? Who can tell? Things are changing month to month. One of our questions is, do we think things will ever return to normal? And we were on a really nice trajectory there where people were hopeful. But come around January, we realized that we're on our 12th wave of this. We went from 10.7%, or we jumped to 10.7% of the consumers believing things will never go back to normal. That's over a 1 point jump from just the month before. 38% will think that we are going to be well over a year from now before we're back to normal, and that's a jump of about 4%. So we hit this point in January, and in some ways things are looking people are a little bit skeptical, but it's not all bad news.
So are things that's good to hear that it's not all bad news, but because of the past couple of months, I mean, we can't ignore how insane January and February were. How much does that really? Let's go back. You were talking a little bit about the social justice movements and the effect of the election. As far as marketers were concerned, what were the real takeaways that you guys found that you think was different because of the depth of your study? Can you give me a little bit more deep background on what insights you were able to provide to marketers from that?
Sure. So maybe that leads me to the positive note, right? So we're seeing vaccine, people that are completely likely to get a vaccine is up 12 percentage points just in the last wave, right? And there's hope there. We were able to track that, over time. We're able to give, confidence to some of our financial clients, saying, hey, their financial situations are improving. People believe that there's a little bit more stability now, where 6 months ago we were helping them navigate clients who were trying to pull their money out of the market, or changing their investment profiles. So our financial clients certainly benefited from this, and we have clients that are national parks. Amusement parks. Where they saw all of their clientele disappear overnight. They really cared about who are the people that are going to be returning, and when are they going to be returning, and how to properly speak to them.
Yeah, as we see that some of the California is opening up some of their amusement parks now, and they're doing it in a limited way, 15-20%, whatever it is, and only Californians are allowed to go. But as far as like the marketing plans, like you said, the first 2 months of this year made that, I don't know, would you call it a pessimism gap go up a lot compared to where we were at the beginning of the year? We thought new year, new life, new century, whatever, new decade. But that wasn't the case. And things were a little bit more, troubled or challenged as we've seen. How much has that changed? I mean, and from that, maybe more important than how much has changed, kind of adds to that already. I'd love to know if you have any more insights. Just, okay, we looked at what happened in the first 2 months. What can Resonate predict going forward, or what are the next 2 months going to look like? We had great news about the vaccine, and yeah.
Sure. We can predict how to appropriately speak to the people in the terms that they care about. Again, there was a retrenching of marketing spend and marketing message. Everybody was scrambling, and what we find is there's a new segmentation scheme out there, and it is about comfort with going back to normal. And so what we're finding is our clients are using our data to say, here's the best way to speak to this group of people to convince them to come back, or to give them comfort that it's okay to come back or buy our products or spend accordingly. And back in 2019, we saw this rise of consumer activists. We had this foundation of this data that when we started adding our social justice questions and the Black Lives Matter questions, we really saw another level of separation. How do you best communicate with these people and empathize with what they are going through? So our data really can help predict where things are going. And again, that goes back to the freshness. We're talking to people every month and learning the pulse of the consumer.
That's excellent. So obviously there's a deep database that you can refer to. And right now I want to do a deep dive into the cookieless future that we were just talking about. Before we do that, I'd love to give some shout outs to people who are watching us. Thank you so much to Rana from Iowa, Tania from Pakistan, amazing, Benjamin from Georgia, Rafael from Canada, Sam from Virginia, Matthew from Connecticut, Simon from the UK, Dar from California, Nikki from Michigan, David from Texas, Robin from Louisiana, and Brinton from Colorado. And just to bring you all to date, I'm John Dioso. I'm the editor of Ad Age Studio 30, and today we're talking about the best strategies for anxious marketers to navigate these uncharted waters as we head into the post-cookie future. And with me today to give us all the background on that is Tom Crane, who's the Chief Technology Officer of Resonate. So let's get into it, Tom. Last week, Google announced that once third-party cookies are phased out, they would not support plans to replace them with personal ad IDs like Unified ID 2.0. And then just yesterday, Google made a case at IAB for building a future without highly personalized ads. So this is obviously top of mind. People are very nervous about it. Can you explain the concept of flock or federated learning of cohorts and whether this complicates how you guys at Resonate are able to provide a 360 view of the consumer that other firms can't?
Absolutely. So for those that we've been actively involved in this conversation since the announcement back in early 2020. And for those that have been really involved, not a surprise what Google came out and announced. So to answer your question about flocks, so this is it's a behavioral cohort. So Google Chrome can see where you go online, what sites you are navigating to, how frequently you go to them, dwell time, all of those types of things. And what they are doing is creating a profile of a cohort of people who navigate the internet just like you. And so there are these, you have a browsing buddy out there that looks just like your behavior. And so they are using their technology to group these behaviors into groups of about 1,000 in this initial trial. People that have similar behavior will be grouped into minimum sizes of 1,000 groups, and that browser will be stamped with a flock ID. And this ID is the tool that Google is offering to the rest of the ecosystem as a replacement for a cookie.
But those flocks, they use universal identifiers, right? I mean, are these the identifiers that Google is talking about, not Chrome not using, or?
No, so Chrome, flocks do not use any identifiers. It is purely based on your navigation behavior, and that no identifiers are used in the creation of the flock. anybody that has access to the browser will have access to these flocks, but they are not identifiable and completely private. The universal identifier, though, Google does have an identifier, and as you log into Gmail and YouTube and anywhere else that Google has their single sign-on service throughout the ecosystem, they will use those for their internal navigation and ad systems. They just won't use external identifiers, the likes of LiveRamp and Trade Desk and the like.
So what about going back to the concern about people using the unified ID 2.0? Are they, to use another acronym, out of luck? What are they going to do?
What is Google going to do?
No, what are the marketers who have devised, and all the people
Sure.
who are coming up with these? There's been, I feel like part of the panic or part of the apprehension about the change that's coming in January 2022 is, okay, well, how are we going to find out who our customers are? How are we going to track,
Absolutely.
all this information? So what are those people going to do that have already done that initial work, or they've been doing it for maybe the past year behind the scenes? And all of a sudden Google comes out with an announcement last week that says, no, we're not going to use any of that stuff.
Absolutely. So industry's response has been increasingly strong. Started a little slow in the middle through the first half or so of 2020, but then you start to see these universal identifiers from LiveRamp and Trade Desk and Throttle and ID5 and you name it. There's a long laundry list of companies using hashed email as the source of that universal identifier, and there's significant differences, but it's akin to a cookie, and it will allow us to still have some level of one-to-one marketing as we do today. What Google is saying is you can't use those here on our properties, but you can use them on other activation platforms that are not Google. And so for a marketer, you don't necessarily want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to limit yourself to simply what Google is putting out there, because you're one-to-one inside their ecosystem, and they're forcing you to use flocks and behavioral cohorts everywhere else.
Speaking of baskets, can you, we've heard a lot about Google's new privacy sandbox. How do Resonate's privacy-preserving analytics solutions align with that sandbox? And do those new solutions that you're working on differ from what you're currently offering?
So we align very well with these two offerings. So early on, we decided we saw where this was headed. We took the most conservative, read that as a pessimistic position on where Google was going, and we have created a dual path. We will use the universal identifiers to wherever we can collect them, and we will use flocks where we can collect them. And what we are doing here is taking our national consumer study. This is actually our strength, that we have a ground truth. 100,000 people plus have told us deterministically what they like and what they don't like and why they like them. And our job has always been, how do we bridge that to the online population? So we use our machine learning and AI infrastructure to do that every day today. We will do that with universal identifiers, and we will do that with cohorts. It really is, we have a very clear path to where, to our solution for this. What we'll see though is all of the DMPs that are filled with third-party data that is derived from third-party pixels. If you go into any DSP, hundreds of thousands of segments that are born on just behavioral data alone. Those will likely go away. There will be a big void of data. So companies like Resonate, where we have a ground truth of answers that we can then port into the new world, we're very well positioned to meet the need going forward.
No wonder you seem so calm. I want to, in that sense of calmness, I'd love to, I mean, it's so funny how, we've been talking about this for a while, obviously, and people always refer to the apocalypse is coming, the cookie apocalypse is coming. Let's take a deep breath and let's fast forward to January of 2023. Okay, so we're a year after the cookie's gone away forever. Where will we be as an industry, and where should we be, in your opinion?
Okay, so where will we be? So there will be a lot of companies that vanish between now and then. Unfortunately, there's the pessimist. Like, we're in an adapt or die moment here. But that's the pessimist view. Where we'll be in 2023, we will have many more laps around the track with these universal identifiers. We will see really how much reach they can have on Chrome. Early projections say, add them all together, it might be 30% coverage. But when you think cookies, with cookie deletion, maybe peak out at 65%. There's some time that will let us build up to that. So a year later, we'll have a much clearer picture of how these UIDs work. We'll also have significant laps around the track with flocks. I think companies will start to innovate around these things. At first, it was met with fear, and now we're in this acceptance mode. And then once it's officially out, right? So we still don't have access to these things from Google until hopefully sometime later this month. But once we get our hands on it, I'm very confident industry will rewrite how the new internet economy is going to work rapidly. So very comfortable that this is a positive thing for the industry, positive things for companies that can adapt quickly, and positive for the ultimately consumer and the ecosystem.
All right, I think that's the perfect place to end it, because I want to end on a happy note. We just need to get to 2023. Other than
just got to get there.
That's right. The next 2 months, I hope, do not take 2 years as the previous 2 months did. But
absolutely,
I just want to thank Tom Craig from Resonate's CTO for joining me, and John Dios from AdAge Studio 30. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
See you, Tom.